Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 14. In our last episode, we talked about working from home with kids. In today's episode, we're chatting with special guest Dale Hensel, all about identifying opportunities and taking action on them.
Fear is a message. Okay, your brain's reticulating activating system, the RAS, says, scanning the environment all the time, going, what's going to eat me? What's going to kill me? And that's its job. Primary job is to generate fear because it keeps you alive. Fear works because you're still alive from yesterday to today. You're still here. And if you have fear, you pay attention and you like try not to get killed. That is a brilliant, useful tool if you understand it.
All right, so this is a new segment we're introducing, and this is actually the first time we've ever had guests on the podcast.
Yep, so we just wanted to do a quick PSA on what you can expect from episodes like this.
Yeah, so basically 2 times a month, basically every other Wednesday, we're going to be releasing a guest. And it's not going to be your traditional interview format. What we're going to be doing instead is having a panel discussion on a specific topic. Mm-hmm. So we just got done chatting with Dale on really how to identify opportunities and then how to take action, which is, I think, a big challenge that people have, one, in seeing like, if I want to start a business, how can I find business ideas? And they're literally all over the place. Mm-hmm. And then 2, once you even have the idea, how do you get past the fear and some of the things that might hold you back? And I got to say, Dale, awesome first guest, and it's the reason we brought him on is that he is just so good at breaking this down in simple models and then getting you inspired and wanting you to just like go out and do it.
Yeah, he's a humongously large big picture thinker.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, you think I'm big picture. Dale is like,
well, I know this is why I get nervous when you go talk to Dale, because you always come back with these grandiose ideas. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I mean, Dale, he's started like 30 different businesses. We've known him for like the past 2 years. I actually spent some time at an Airbnb with him, just brainstorming and doing business strategy. And he's just an amazing guy. He's got amazing stories.
Yeah, and we look forward to bringing some of those stories to you guys and talking about this really important topic and kind of giving you access to Dale's knowledge and his wealth of stories. And he's a really funny guy too. So of course there's some great analogies in here and some swear words we had to bleep out.
Oh yeah. But to be honest, this show was longer than most of our other shows, but there was just so much gold in it that we had to let it go on. So, hopefully you guys are enjoying this, and we'd love feedback. So hop over to the show notes at tomandariana.com/14 and let us know what you thought about this, because we're going to be trying some new stuff out there, and we really want to make sure this delivers for you. So take a listen to the show, hop on over, let us know what you thought. And then a big thing is I want to hear some actions you guys are taking, because if you listen to the show, you're going to be inspired. I promise you that. So let's take that advantage of that inspiration and actually make some stuff happen.
All right. So keep listening, and the episode's about to begin.
All right. Welcome back to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast. And so excited to have Dale Hensel on today. Woo! Welcome, Dale.
Hey, guys.
And Dale, where are you coming at us from?
I'm currently in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. It's absolutely.
And we are currently very jealous of you because we have snow outside.
I know. I had to come down here because I could wear like shorts again. So that was.
Tom wears those in the snow to like.
I do too, but it got a little chilly. Forget it.
Yeah, well, I figured it's a state of mind, and if I wear the shorts, the weather will warm up, and
no.
Yeah. All right. All right. Anyway, so this is our first episode with a guest, and awesome to have you on for the first one. And just so everyone knows how this is going to work, instead of your traditional interview, what we're doing with each of these shows is really talking about a specific topic. And it'll be more of like a panel discussion, and we'll just go around with stories, experiences, thoughts. And basically, you guys got to sit in and just kind of hear us talk about this stuff.
Yeah, it's a conversation. We're having a conversation.
Yeah, and so you guys will find out very shortly. Dale, I don't even know how to describe Dale.
Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing.
I don't have enough adjectives jammed in this.
There you go. I say we should see what your title looks like if you lay it all out.
That would be a lot. Yep.
It'd be a lot.
All right, but so the topic today is really identifying opportunities and then being able to take action on those opportunities.
Yeah. And I thought Dale would be the perfect example for this, because I consider him like the king of opportunities. I feel like you just see them like everywhere, and then you just go and pick them up and carry them around and collect them.
Make them happen. Yeah,
Make
that's the other half of it. So let me tell you what I used to do. Here's a really cool little story. Back in like 1996, 97, I started to have this, well, I had this mental shift earlier, but I started to have to explain it to somebody. All right, so here's the thing. I had to dissect my process for coming up with opportunity. And I said, I see opportunity where other people don't. And so what I did was I created an exercise for other people to do this. Back when there was a lot of, I don't know, we didn't have digital stuff. We had newspapers. So I would take a newspaper and I could open it up and throw it on the table. I said, now let's look at everything in this newspaper right here, these two open pages, and see if we can determine an opportunity. And so this was just used for training people's eyes to see opportunity. Here's what I would do. I'd be like, new leash law released in Pocatello, Idaho. As of this date, a new leash law is there. And then over here, it would be a bid for this. And over here, it'd be maybe a puff piece on a new restaurant, something like that. And therein, I would say, try to identify as many different opportunities to make money or start a business from here. So the leash law, well, start a service. Go to the city and say, I'd like to become the first city's licensed dog walking, leash guy, and then go out and promote that, because the law just changed. And you can go to door to door and say, do you know your dogs are like an $800 liability if they're caught running around? I can make it much cheaper. You pay me this much, I'll walk your dogs. And you can go walk 10, 15 dogs. So what I'm trying to do is just teach people to look at what's in front of them, just regular stuff, and then parse it down to a viable opportunity. And so if you do that and you start to train your brain, you start to see opportunities pretty much everywhere. And just by doing that exercise myself multiple times, showing people, they would get it and I would get it even deeper. So one of the cool things about discovering opportunities is I've learned to listen, because you can look at the digital stuff, you can listen, but people are like the best source of opportunity.
Yeah.
I listen to people who whine, complain. They're my favorite people. Not because I go, oh yeah, I can totally relate about how bad it is. No, I don't. I don't relate very well at all, but I can hear that, and I hear it objectively. And so I can say, oh, you've got a complaint, you've got a problem, you've got pain. How many other people have pain like yours? How can I help you solve that pain? What could I do? What is the solution to that pain? Because complainers do this. They complain about their situation, them in that situation, and their resulting pain. Mm-hmm. They don't usually go to a step to say, they might, briefly, usually with friends over coffee. Yeah, I have this terrible pain. This situation's pissed me off. And then they go, I probably should. And then they rattle off 3 or 4 solutions, and then they never act on it, which is great because they're never competition. My trick is to hear the same thing, except I'm not emotionally vested in the pain, but I'm emotionally vested in the solution, because the solution is money. So I hear them and I go, oh, you know what? You've got a pain. Let me help you solve it. They give me half the answers. And I ask them a couple more questions, digging just a little bit deeper. Instead of what's your biggest pain about, blah, blah, blah. I see those posts all the time. They annoy the hell out of me.
Absolutely.
So what I do is I go, those are really surface, very general, almost useless information. You need to be able to dig deeper. And if you were to ask the question in a different way, mm-hmm. you would be able to really identify the single most painful thing and possibly the most profitable solution. An example would be, instead of what's your biggest pain about X, it's like, what is that creeping feeling you feel late at night when your chest clenches and your back feels cold and your shoulders tighten because you're worried about something sneaking up on you and totally ruining your life? And they're like, how'd you know? I just described a feeling. You tell me what it's connected to. And they're like, oh, well, it's when this, and this do happen. And they're like, yeah, that just drives me nuts. You'd pay for money to get rid of that, wouldn't you? Because a general pain, they'd be like, nah, I can live with it.
Yeah.
But a specific pain that is like that level of emotional, visceral reaction, they're going to say, I'll pay money to get rid of that. So
I was going to say, and it's so crazy with that. The first step of that is just how you're looking for that and just mm-hmm. starting to listen. Because to your point, what a lot of people do is they see that and they hear somebody talk about it, but then they shrug it off and it sounds hard or it sounds like a problem. But I think, the thing we've seen with successful entrepreneurs is we're always seeing opportunity because, to your point, we've trained our brain that way.
It's all about training your brain. Here's how I explain it to people. The brain is really good at one thing, pattern recognition. So you walk up to a door, you reach out, you grab the door handle, you twist it, you push the door open, you walk through it. And your brain goes, oh, I don't have to do this consciously every time. I've kind of mastered this. So it puts it in the back and it just like says pattern A. And so you walk up to a door, run pattern A, and it ignores everything else. The same thing is when you're driving a certain type of car, I don't care what car in the car you drive, but if you start seeing them everywhere, like, oh, there's a guy like mine, there's a car like mine, there's a car like mine. You see them everywhere. You change cars, you go, oh, there's a car like mine, there's a car like mine.
Every time.
Every time. So those are pattern recognition. And I think if you train your brain to recognize certain patterns, like opportunity takes the shape of a pattern. And as soon as you understand the pattern, your whole job becomes, oh, I've identified a source of discomfort, pain, or desire, and I've identified the ideal or semi-ideal or close to ideal situation. Now I just have to bring the two together. They're kind of like magnets. They get close enough together, they'll snap together. So opportunity to me looks like that. It's a pattern. And I hear it all the time. It just spills out of people's mouths. And they tell me about a business and I go, or they tell me about a situation or something they were doing. And I go, oh, here's 3 or 4 different business models. Hey, there's 55 good business models that I know of. And you take one of these 55, you apply it, or you take a combination of these and you apply it, and immediately you have a simple, structured, easy to lay out pattern. Now you've got the pattern, the blueprint, the rest is the action, which is, as you guys know, it's getting off your butt, it's taking the first step, it's taking the next step even though you're scared, it's taking the third step even though you're terrified, and then it's the fourth step, fifth step, which is like working through the terror, and just keep doing it until it suddenly you wake up and it's like working.
And I think that's one thing that I like about how Tom looks at problem solving, because he does that. He sees opportunities, or he'll hear other people talk about things, and his first question is, well, how could you do that? How could you take that opportunity and use it for something that you want to do? Because a lot of people some might see the opportunities, but they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that because I don't have X, Y, and Z skills, or I don't know the right people to network with or connect with to be able to do that. Whereas you see the opportunity and then you immediately, your brain is going into like, okay, how can I take that opportunity and use it to my advantage and make it into something? So it's like it's always asking the how. How do you turn around and make it something?
Well, I was going to say, and you said it too, like too often we're all talking and we're projecting out instead of listening and taking that in. And it's amazing how when you ask why or how or what, some of those questions, how you can really dive in and get past just the surface stuff. And then part of what I've seen too is that you then also see how deep is that pain. Right? The people that complain the most or really have the biggest problems, that's really saying there's probably a big opportunity there because they're so passionate about this.
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself because of the noise here. So if you guys, so tell me how, I'll talk about it when the air conditioning kicks off, but Tom, how do you go through the process of, I see an opportunity. What is your first several steps to like execution, beginning of execution? I know what I do. I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I look at is I'm always listening for people that are complaining or things that have changed. Change is a huge opportunity to be able to, make an impact. And let's just take some examples. So the stock market changes. There's an opportunity created. The real estate market changes. There's an opportunity created. A new law is put in place. There's an opportunity created. So part of it, the first step is really just looking for changes that occur, and then starting to listen and kind of see who is it that's impacted by those changes. And let me now go and start listening and asking questions around that. And like I said, the biggest thing I like to look for is who are the people that are really fired up about this change. Like I remember I was working with a company that worked for small businesses and taxes. And it was like every time taxes change, people complained about that. And it's like, well, don't you realize that the reason you're in business is because tax change are complicated, and what you're offering is the ability to help people solve that problem. So the first step, I think, is listening, and then diving deep into really what is the fundamental problem underneath that. And then to your point, you're putting that into, like, we use the lean canvas all the time. Anytime there's a new idea, I start basically filling the boxes out in my head. All right, who are the people that are affected by this problem? what are the top problems that they're complaining about, and then let me fill in the business models I know, what would they be willing to pay for this? So I can mentally put all that together in my head and then start talking to people. Really, the more people you talk to, the more they're going to be telling you about how big of a pain is this, what impact is this going to have if they end up not being able to solve the problem. And then through there, you can really start to get a sense of, is this something worth pursuing more, or are people complaining about it, but they're not willing to take an action for it?
Yeah, yeah, that's the same thing. Actually, for me, action always starts with the assumption that I'm going to leap into the unknown, and I'm just going to assume that I have to learn fast to get out. So here's a really recent example. I came to Playa del Carmen. I landed here, don't know a lick of Spanish, don't know anything about the money. I had one person who I contacted via the internet so I could at least arrange a place to stay. And in the week that I've been here, I've identified like 5 really good real estate opportunities, 2 distressed situations, and 1 possible purchase of a small resort that I can utilize for masterminds and whatnot. So in no time at all, I built a really fast network, and that's because I've learned how to network professionally. And I built a network, identified some opportunities, identified some investors, and brought in a couple business models that will tie several of them together. So an example of the resort is, I'm going, okay, why is this failing? Because it's a little off the beaten path, and they suck at real estate, or they suck at internet or marketing. And it's the typical story. Couple retires, they move to the Caribbean area. They say, I'm going to build a resort and run a bed and breakfast, and don't know anything about business, but they're like engineers, brilliant people, but terrible business people. They don't know people.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and go, okay, so what are the functional numbers? Then I go, oh, so if I can buy it for this much, and if I can go get maybe 10 other internet marketers who hold masterminds, what I can do very quickly is have each of us put in some money, own it fractionally amongst us, and then each one of us run at least 1 mastermind per year, and that would fill it up past its current occupancy, and the rest of us, because we're all internet marketers, make some concerted effort online, both with our students and people we work with, to review the place. And then suddenly we've got a high level of reviews, we've got traffic, we suddenly have, I can turn the property around fairly quickly and benefit myself, my investors, and we would have a small resort that would basically be digital nomads, internet entrepreneurs who come here with masterminds and people like that, and it's catered to us specifically. Mm. And so in a very short period of time, I was able to identify a couple of opportunities. But, well, that was pretty cool. And part of it is because I go out into the world with being very impressionable and listening. I go with no assumptions, just curiosity and listen. I ask a lot of stupid questions.
Well, and I was going to say, I think that's one of the key things that a lot of entrepreneurs run into is typically the first step is we get an idea. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then we kind of close off a lot of the opportunity. We don't ask the questions because we think we know what it is. Whereas, as you said, if you go out looking for that and then you're just curious, right? You're asking questions, you're connecting, you're like, maybe this is stupid, but what if we did this? Mm-hmm. Like, I know, like when we've talked in the past, even about, that concept, it was like we were just brainstorming, and especially when you're talking to other people that are open-minded like that and they've got different experiences, you start bringing that together, and in the matter of like a half hour, you can come up with an idea that you can then go out and start testing.
Well, and I remember you talking about some of this stuff, like you were listening to people's pains and complaints within the digital nomad community of like, I love going and out into the world and seeing all these different places, but we can never find somewhere that has good internet. They don't have good co-working spaces. There's nowhere that we can convene as a community of digital nomads and have somewhere to work on our businesses, but also travel the country and the world. And so I remember you like kind of asking questions in the group, kind of clarifying on what people were talking about and what their pain was and why they couldn't find those places currently. And now you've got this whole concept, but it's added all these other aspects on because you also listen to other people's problems, and it comes together into this really cool idea when you've taken all those things you've listened to and you've made a new opportunity that can be a new business.
Well, exactly.
And I'm curious on your perspective, because what I see, like you've run multiple businesses in different industries, and we've done the same thing. What I see a lot of times is we'll be able to take concepts that work in one industry, and then we apply them because they haven't been introduced into this other industry. But when you take the founding principles and put them there, it's like, wow, I could actually take 2 or 3 of these different ideas from different industries, combine them together, and now it's something new to this industry. So what have you experienced around something like that?
So there was a great book I ran across a while back. It's like 55 Business Model Innovations, something like that. I'll refer it to you guys later. You can link to it in Amazon. But it talked about different business models. And my favorite thing now is to understand these 55 business models, which I'm going to start doing a series of videos on explaining each business model. These business models, if you take them, they're like Legos. And if you stack them together in different ways, you can get almost infinitely unique business models. I think a lot of entrepreneurs attack the market. I have this great idea. Ego drives this, right? I have this great idea and I'm going to bring this to market. Whereas I'm just like, listen, I'm like a waiter in a restaurant. I come to the market and say, what would you guys like? Would you like coffee? Would you like water? They tell me, oh, no, I got this really interesting dish in my head. And I go, let me go make that for you. So now I'm a producer, but I'm a producer of what people want, not what I think they want or what I want. Sometimes, I'm part of the market that says, I want this. I wanted a co-working space that would give me X, Y, Z. So I'm in the process of creating it. But I want a resort and I want a pool. And, I'm at this co-working space and there's like 50, 60 people here and it gets a little crowded. And I'm going, we're all sitting here like this with each other. Yeah, no. No, thank you. Stop touching my mouse. So the thing is that I want to create something a little bit airier, a little bit wider, a little bit bigger. And I also want to create a space where we can have community, we can talk. In other words, take some of these digital communities that we know and love and re-add the aspect of face-to-face community and opportunity and everything else. And whenever I've done that and have that or been around that, it's just been fantastic generation of ideas. I go, hey, who here's a logo designer? Can you help me for like 5 minutes? Done. And so it kind of de-virtualizes a lot of some of the workers and some of the work processes, and it allows it to be more communicative and everything else. So that's what I wanted and I'm building. The way I approach, just any opportunity is really, frankly, listen to the complainers, ask them what do they want, and then start to bring pieces together and cut off pieces that don't work until it's the meal that they requested. And really, that's it. I'm just a producer. I'm not a consumer. I'm a producer. I listen to consumers because that's who pays me. But I'm a producer first and foremost. And I guess that mindset, plus, seeing through the filter of listening to consumers or complainers, and just saying, well, if I were a waiter, you might bleep this out, but I consider myself the market's meaning I do what the market requests rather than I know everything. And that shift has allowed me to grow some very large businesses very quickly. So anyway, that's how I approach it.
Well, I was going to say, and I like the simplicity of that. Like so many of us have the potential to overcomplicate things and think too much. And as you said, it really comes down to those couple simple things, asking the questions, putting it together. And then, I want to shift into where I see a lot of people getting stuck. And that's on, sure, I got the idea. I've done some of this. Well, how do you take action, and what's the mindset that you go around for that? Because you've done some really big deals. I know every time I talk to you, you inspire me to think bigger. And I mean, we've even heard like stories and the stuff you've done. And I think I'm a pretty quick, fast start. So I'll get an idea and I'll go execute on it. Like you're like 10 times faster than I am. So what is the thought process that you go through when you have an idea to then say, all right, let's go take action on this. And I'm not going to let fear or any of the other things that would typically stop people from taking action from delaying me from moving forward with this.
Okay, I have a couple different things for that recipe that works well for me. And I think it's primarily experimenting with recipes until you figure it out. One of it is I understand fear. It's not that I don't have it, I just deal with it differently, and I have it and I accept it, but I view it differently. Fear is a message. Okay, your brain's reticulating activating system, the RAS, says, scanning the environment all the time, going, what's going to eat me? What's going to kill me? And that's its job. Primary job is to generate fear because it keeps you alive. Fear works because you're still alive from yesterday to today. You're still here. And if you have fear, you pay attention and you you like try not to get killed. That is a brilliant, useful tool if you understand it. But the other thing is people go, once they get the fear, they let it really percolate and marinate inside, and then their creative side really blows it up into this huge, massive thing. I just take it for what it is. It's a message to pay attention. So I pay attention. That's it. I go, okay, nothing's going to eat me. Nothing's going to kill me. I'm good. Do it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? And because I've been in several situations and I've been totally broke several times and had millions of dollars several times, I now have seen the worst situation. I learned early that the worst situations really aren't that bad. In America, you could be totally broke, down on your luck, living in a van down by the river for about 2 weeks. Then go get a job at McDonald's. And about 2 weeks later, you'll have an apartment. About a month or two later, you'll have a car. And a couple months later, you'll be back on your feet. You're talking about, a couple weeks to a couple months totally down. That's if you use the safety net, the social safety net, and have no friends and anything else. Just fundamentally working. But if you don't let the fear rule your life, your fear should be, well, nothing's going to kill me, so what should I do to, keep going? When you understand that the fear is a message, I go, okay, I've got the message. Now what do I do with it? I set it over here, and I don't engage it like, oh my God, what if this happens? What if everything I do goes to sorry, I beeped out. But the thing is that if you take the fear and say, it's a great message, set it over there. It's just a message. It's not reality. And once you understand that, then you're like, well, the next question is how? So I come at everything from a how instead of a why, or instead of a, what. I go, how? How do I do it? You don't have any money. Well, how do I get money? Well, you don't have any resources. Well, how do I get resources? Well, you don't know how to do something. Well, how do I learn? And there's a number of different models that you can engage very quickly to answer any one of those. And if you just know them, you go, oh, I don't have any money. How do I get money? Ask. Right? Here's 5 or 6 different sources. Go ask them. One for a private investor, one for a bank loan, one for a government loan, one for some sort of, there's just a lot of different resources people don't know how to engage. So go ask. I don't know how to do it. Watch a bunch of YouTube videos till you learn. Ask somebody who knows. Find somebody who already is doing it and ask to partner with them. There's a whole bunch of ways to deal with that how. You just basically start with how, and everything it flows from there. Now, after doing this a number of years, these are all second natures. These are, if I find an opportunity in the morning, by about noon, I will have the model sketched out, and by 3 or 4 o'clock, I'll have the first steps taken. Because I found that if I take the first steps and engage it as if it's real, as if it's true, and as if it's going to happen, then the next steps are kind of inevitable. In other words, I just pack a snowball as fast as I can and start rolling it down the hill, which means it'll take on a life of its own. So as soon as I landed here, I go, I want to see warehouses. I want to see beach clubs. I want to see hotels. I want to see condos. I want to see houses. I want to see undeveloped land. And for the first 7 days I was here, I was like working literally like 12 hours a day, running around looking at all these different places. And what happened is it took on a life of its own. Now I'm getting phone calls from all these people like, I found this for you. I found this for you. What about this? This guy will do this. This guy's got some money. This guy wants to partner. And so in no time at all, it's just started to snowball. Within a month or so, I should probably have some property here, and I've already found property managers. I've already figured out the Airbnb model here. I've already figured out the legal way to purchase real estate. I've already engaged the house. So that's how I do it so fast, is if I start in the morning, by 3 o'clock, I want action already happening. Between 9 in the morning or 9 in the morning and noon, I just want to learn. And from noon till 3, I'm just figuring out who and how. Does that make sense? How do you do it, Tom?
I love that. Before you answer, I think you just put out a new book title. Instead of start with why, it's start with how. And then I wanted to point out your thing about fear, because I am a very emotional based person. So fear does, like what you said, it just makes my head start thinking of all of these things and like explode. But the point you made is, what's the worst that can happen? And that's
how many of your worst nightmares have happened, Ariana?
None. So that's the question I have to ask myself to deal with, like, my emotionally based brain is, what's the worst that can happen? And because I'm a planner, then I start thinking like, oh, okay, well, this is the worst that can happen. And then what would we do? And then we'd be good. And okay, so then you get past that fear, because even if that worst thing did happen, it's not that bad. And you've kind of set some plans in place for, well, if it does, I'm going to do this and then we're going to just move on.
You learn to bounce.
No, you can answer.
Yeah. So the big thing I've learned, and I didn't always have it, and I love the way you describe, you make it a habit. And the first couple times you do it, you're going to, stumble through it and whatever. But once you start making it a habit, it becomes so much easier to just do. So what I've found is you get started, like the analogy I always use is GPS, right? For GPS to work, you got the starting point, you got a destination where you want to go, and then you're going to map a route out. Now, Google's really good at this. Most of us are terrible at mapping the route out. But the important thing is that you get started. And that was a key thing that I heard you say as well. I'm going to learn in the morning. I'm going to identify what I got to do next, and I'm going to go do it. And then what a lot of people end up getting caught on is that I can't see the whole, view forward. So I'm going to wait, and I'm going to make the perfect plan, and I'm going to get everything mapped out. Whereas what I look at is it's not about having the perfect plan mapped out, but it's about let me get started, because you know the least about something at the very beginning, right? It doesn't matter how much you plan. You're always going to know more once you start taking action. So what I look at is if I have a general idea of where I'm going or what I want to do, I might put an initial plan out. But what's more important is I'm going to take action, and then I'm going to retrospect. Okay, now that I know more, let me see what other information I pulled in. And based on that, I'm going to adjust what I'm doing and then adjust the next step. So just like GPS, it's like, okay, here's where I'm at. I'm a little bit off the plan. Is that okay? And it's still going to get me to the destination now that I know more, and I'm going to update my plan? Or did that kind of pull me in, the wrong direction, and I'm going to pull it back to the plan? But by constantly learning, checking in, doing, adjusting, you end up being able to progress forward. And to your point, you build that momentum. But without taking action, it's so easy to delay because you just want to learn one more thing, or you let the fear creep in. And one of the biggest ways to get rid of the fear is to take action and then let that momentum and cut into, what's the worst that could happen? Well, maybe I look dumb. Okay, I look dumb, but now I can take the next step forward. And, a couple of years ago, I think the big thing that really changed my mind was it's not about me or my ego or anything else. It's really all about, if I don't do this, what's going to happen? Who's not going to get their problem solved? Who am I not going to be able to help? And so once I took it away from me and said, I'm going to ask the dumb question, I'm going to say the thing that nobody else is saying. And by doing that, what I'm able to do is get started and pull out the things that maybe everybody knows, but nobody's saying. And I mean, so you've probably seen me do that, a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, all the time. That's pretty much one of your Tomisms.
Tomisms, I love it.
We've got lots of Tomisms around here. I myself have started using some Tomisms, which is really scary.
I've had Daleisms as well. I get it.
I'm sure you got a book of Daleisms.
One time, one guy wrote, he and I were communicating for about 2 years on Skype. And he told me one day, he says, I've collected all of these Daleisms. And he showed me this document of all these Daleisms that he's collected over the years. And it was hilarious to me because, here's all these quotes right out of Skype, I said, wow, you should publish that, learn from it, something. Anyway, yeah, exactly. I finally found a place that's quieter and I can now talk. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom was talking while you were moving.
No, I listened the whole time. So here's an example. I love being able to take an idea and expand it very, very quickly because once you have what we've been talking about is the fundamentals of seeing opportunity. What you do next, then the fundamental start points of not just opportunity, but of action. But a lot of times people think so small. And they're thinking, well, I'll attribute it to some of the things I saw recently on the streets here. They got a little bike cart with a bunch of food and things like that, and cigarettes and candy and everything. And they run around and go, you want to buy something? You want to buy something? That's great. It's a great hustle. And it's appealing to the market. But then what, right? Why do you go into business in the first place? You don't go into business so you can have a 100-hour work week, because that's what happens. You go into business because you have a dream of trying to get someplace. But people stop somewhere short of a dream by doing it, and then they get caught up in the minutia. They're in the machine, they are part of the machine, and they never go bigger so that the machine can get bigger and pay them without being around. So what does the end result of the machine look like? And I think that's where people they think it's so small. And there's so much opportunity out there. There's more money, there's more opportunity, there's so much. But they think, well, I have to scramble every day to try to make this. So they're on this hamster wheel and trying to roll it up the mountain. And I'm going, no, it's not quite how it is. You get the bigger hamster wheel, hire a team of hamsters or heck lemmings, and you see there's the cliff, and they all run forward. And, so that's how I would do it. But they don't get that. So one of the things that I learned early on was being able to think bigger. When I first started thinking of real estate, I said, I want to buy 10 houses in 10 years so I can make $100 per house per month. That's $1,000 per month. Man, I could practically retire on that. I was 23. So not the
you and me alike. Absolutely.
Sounds like this guy. Sounds like
yeah. So, but my first purchase was a 15-unit apartment complex. So in one step, I blew all my goals, and it was producing a couple grand. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then I said, well, I need more, and I need more. And
so let me stop you quick there. So sure. How did you go from that idea of I'm going to get 10 of them and $100 a month to just blowing it out of the water right away? Because that's where I see a lot of people, they can never do that. They're making those incremental steps, and then it takes them so long to get there that it's tough to get those big goals when you're only taking the baby steps and you keep on with the baby steps. So how do you just blow that out of the water?
I think a lot of people run their business with baby steps, the whole business for years. There's the Daleism right there. Stop running your business with baby steps. At some point, you just got to grow and start taking the steps. So there's my latest Daleism. Okay, so here's what happened. I had been out to sea in Alaska as a commercial fisherman for 5 years when I was like, okay, I came back and I said, okay, I'm going to start buying houses. And an opportunity came up. Somebody says, oh, I have this apartment complex. I really hate it. My wife hates it. It's a lot of work. He had like a couple hundred apartments, and he hated this one apartment complex because it was an early purchase of his, and he had outgrown it. And I go, and he told me about it, and I said, well, I want to buy real estate. He says, you want to buy this? I said, absolutely. I hadn't even seen it. And I didn't know. I had no money. I was working for $10 an hour. Had no money, had no credit, gotten divorced, didn't know anything. And what had happened was he drove me over and showed me this place, and that fear came up and says, scary. What if it doesn't work? What if, and of course your mind runs rampant. But in Alaska, I learned something. And when the wave is coming at you, you don't go, scary, what's going to happen? You just go, grab something, do something. Doing something will probably result in your life being saved rather than living in the message. I got the message. Now it's time to do something.
Yeah.
So I got the message. Scary. Okay. But if I grab onto something or if I take action, I'm going to probably survive this wave, and I'll know better on the other side, and I'll have a better understanding of the whole place. So this is what I did. I looked at him, I said, yes. And then I said, how? I don't have any money. And he goes, well, if you'll take over it, then I don't have to manage it. And tell you what, if I just sell it to you, I'll sell it to you owner finance, put nothing down, just get it out of my hair. And I went, sure. And so I did. I just bought the damn thing. And we drove over to the title company, and by 3 p.m, I owned it. He showed it to me at 9 a.m. I told him the story. I wanted to buy real estate at 9 a.m. By noon, I looked at it. By 3, I owned it. And I was like, all right, guess I'm going to have to do something. So I just jumped in, and what's the worst that can happen, right? Well, I evaluated the message, and I said, well, nothing's going to eat me. Nothing's going to kill me. I might lose it. I might screw it up or whatever. But he said it was a pain in his ass, and he was happy to get rid of it anyway. So he was thinking of just walking away from it. So to me, there was no downside. What if I walked away from it? Well, I guess I'd be fine and go get another job, because $10 an hour at the time was what I was making. So that was, I was being a repo man, $10 an hour. So being a repo man, you learn to ask for money. So what's the worst that can happen? I ask people for money, or I take back the apartment. I'm like, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to do this one part. And so I went around, knocked on all doors, and collected rent. Some people told me to piss off, and some people told me some sad story. And I go, yeah, I hear sad stories all the time as a repo guy. I don't care. Give me the money. We'll get out. And so that one skill helped me. It's called, and then what? So the message comes in, what if it doesn't work? Well, and then what? Well, then I'll not have any money. And then what? Well, I'll lose my house. And then what? Well, I'll be living in a van down by the river. And then what? Well, I guess I'd have to start over. And then what? I get a job, and I get another house, and I get another car, and I have another life, and now I'm smarter. You just keep asking, and then what? And the fear becomes very small and absurd. You take it to the point of ridiculousness, and you go, okay, I got the message. The fear doesn't have to be so overwhelming that it freezes me. And when you take it to the extreme, it's ridiculous. You know, when you take it, especially when your brain makes up all over the stuff, you just follow it naturally instead of just being, and then what? Because once you get to the van down by the river, eating out of a bean can, people stop as if that will be their life for the rest of their lives. I'm going, no. And then what? No.
Yep.
Well, I forgot about the next step.
Well, I'm curious to ask Ariana because, you know, you and I think very much alike. And a lot of our challenges over the years was I think a lot like that. And you're more of the, you know, I'm not sure, I've got that fear. So, you know, like as Dale was saying that, and as our experiences have kind of gone through, what was the thing that helped you kind of get past some of that fear and start jumping into some of the businesses?
I think it's that, what you talked about, when we got to a point where we were unsure of what our future looked like, and we were trying to decide what steps to take next. My fear came in the unknown, as as Dale mentioned earlier, like that's a lot of where fear comes from, it's unknown. So when we kind of talked about it, well, let's talk about what we know might happen. Let's assume if this happens, then after that, this would happen. And then after that, this would happen. So I remember we were down in the basement. We were like in one of our planning sessions, and it was almost like we were doing that exercise. Like, well, if it takes the turn this way, then what would happen after that? Well, we would do this. Okay. And then after we did that, what would we do after that? What would come next? Well, we would obviously do this. So I think for me, because I have that worry of the unknown and I tend to be a planner, asking those questions helps my brain process what it's not unknown anymore. It's like, okay, well, if this happens, we're going to take these steps. Now we know where we're going to be. We move on, we move forward, and we kind of take things as they are, as opposed to, well, I don't know what would happen. And now my brain is making up all these crazy stories and I'm freaking out because the unknown to me makes me worry. I'm a worry.
Right. It's supposed to, because you're supposed to pay attention. It's a great message. The problem is when it gets stuck in your mind more as a picture, like I live in a van down by the river, and it becomes a static picture in your brain and you're just like frozen. Rather than saying, what's the next step? What happens after that? Because the movie isn't done. In fact, it's probably not done even when you're dead. It's just not done yet. So the thing is you had kids, right? So my wife was like, I don't want to have kids because it's going to hurt. And I'm thinking, yeah, it'll probably hurt, but and then what? And
I can attest to that.
Yes, it hurts. And then what, right? But it's not forever. You may remember forever. My mom teased me about it forever. Anytime I did anything bad, she was always like, let me tell you about my labor pains. And I was like, Mom, stop. And so, or times I would be like, well, I don't know if I want to do this. This is scary. She goes, let me tell you about my labor pains. And I just, Mom, I'm going to go ahead and jump off this cliff and go skydiving because I don't want to hear about the labor pains.
We're totally using that for our son, not because of the labor pains, because he didn't sleep and he made our lives miserable for the first year and a half. So I always talk about when he's in high school, I'm going to have the air horn. Like, wake him up.
That's it. So you get the message, and then you realize, but like labor pains, it didn't prevent you from having kids, right? Or even having a second one, for crying out loud. You knew how much it was.
I made a choice. I knew it was going to hurt like hell, but we wanted.
You knew that the pain was going to be sufficiently compensated by having this wonderful kid, and you're just like, and Tom's shaking his head, you don't know,
of course,
you don't know anything. Yeah, it didn't hurt hardly at all. So the point here is a lot of entrepreneurs will stop because of perceived pains, perceived slights, perceived risks, all of it's perception, but they get to that point where it's like, I lost money and my life sucks. Instead of, well, I learned something, or I actually made it work, for crying out loud. And that's what and then what does is to help you move past that static picture of forever frozen in misery. And, I don't think very many people would have kids if they were always going to be in pain like that. They would stop there and would die out in a generation. But that's not what happens. And that's not what happens with failure either. It's like a really good graduation to the next level. I basically graduated through several levels. All of my failures were graduations. And every time I failed, I got better. And now I'm able to produce larger companies much faster, that are more profitable, quicker. I know all the pieces to do. I know the business models to use. I know the things to stay away from. I've already paid my stupid tax. For me, action is super fast because I've already paid for all that. I'm like, oh, I paid for my education, my real life education. I've graduated past postdoctoral, and I paid all my stupid tax. I'm good. Let's do it. So that's how I approach things. Is I came down here, didn't know anything, never been to Playa del Carmen. And I said, well, I'm just going to go figure out how to make a life there. And poof, because I want to live by the sea. That's the big goal, right? I want to live next to the ocean. The ocean's 1 block away from here, and I want to do that. So take action, see what happens. It's been a week, and I'm already putting together opportunities that will benefit myself, my business partners, future investors, other digital marketers, digital nomads. So it's already listening to and playing to the markets. And yes, you do remember that post from months ago. And I says, what would happen if? And people were like, they told me all their yeses, nos, and wants, and desires, and fears. And I was starting to able to like boil that down into the essence of what is necessary versus the, now I just have to make the numbers work so that it works for them, works for me, works for everyone. And that's easy. That's just math. Mm-hmm. Once you understand the math, you're like, okay, cool.
Well, what I love about that line of questioning that you did is we see a lot of people, and I think we even experience at certain points, you achieve a certain level of success, and then you kind of get stuck because you're worried about losing what you have. Like you perceive that the risk of losing what you have is greater. And that's why like oftentimes when people have their back against the wall, that's when they do the best, because it's like, well, if I can't really go down much more, but I've got so much upside by doing it, so I'm going to do it. But,
right.
We find so many people that, and everyone's got a different threshold, but you get to a certain point and it's like, okay, I've got some success. Now I've got some stuff to lose. I'm going to be a little more cautious. Mm-hmm. How do you see, because, I know that I come to you when I got to think bigger. And right. Every time we have a conversation, you ask the right questions to make me, realize that there's a lot more out there and it's not as bad. So what do you say to people that kind of they've had some success and they get stuck? How do you get unstuck and are able to kind of go past, some of that fear and some of that comfort?
So for me, working small is annoying. And it's feeling like in a closet claustrophobic. And the larger you get, the more freedom you have. And so I make this analogy and I start to point out to them, hey, remember when you had like one desk and one laptop and one mouse and you didn't have anything? And now here you are, you've got 5 houses and a couple stores and everything else. And then they go, yeah, I remember that transition, but then I could lose all this stuff. I go, but you feel like you could lose all this stuff because you haven't been able to pull yourself out of this yet. Some people are like, well, I want to start the next business, and go, finish the one you're in, meaning that get it to a size, scale, or operability where you can benefit from being a business owner and an investor, not a business proprietor, right? Running the damn thing. So, and it doesn't matter what their business is. Somebody comes to me and says, I run $20 million a year company. And I go, well, that's a good start. And they kind of get pissed off about it. And I go, no, seriously, why are you running it? I mean, there's people out there who've gone to school for years, who've learned more than you have, who are really, really methodical, and they don't have any desire to be an entrepreneur. They want a job. Why aren't you giving them your job? You're being selfish, keeping this CEO position to yourself. Well, I feel like I can grow it bigger. I said, that really? I bet if you hire the right person and you find the right person, you can grow it way bigger. So get your butt out of the businesses you're in so you can start being a business owner and enjoying this. Because otherwise you just got a fancy $20 million a year job. So what? I don't care. What I want to know is how are you firing yourself from the job faster? So one of the things I do is I really want people to grasp the concept that their business is not a job that they want to keep. And they get secure, they have their house. Well, what if I have to take a pay cut? I go, how much were you making when you started? Right? You might want to cut down just a little bit to give yourself a little bit more room, or just stop spending so much money and make a little bit more and just freeze your budget so you have room to do what you're trying to do, because that is what gives you freedom. If you don't like the business, sell the damn thing. right? Because your time is worth more. You've just been trained. You've got all this experience. Go start something else with more resources than you did before. If you don't like the work, then hire it out. And, everybody's trying to get their business to a certain point so that they make more. And I'm going, I can't stress this enough. I tell people to automate their businesses and get it out of their hair and boil it down to, I should be running my business by KPIs only. KPIs and accounting reports only. Okay. And if you can do that, you've built a good business. If you can't do that, you're a shopkeeper still. Good for you. But if you can run the business by finding the right talent, having the ability to find the right talent should somebody move on, get fired, die, whatever, and running it by KPIs and reports, then you're in great shape. Mm-hmm. It takes a while to learn that strategy, and it takes a while to learn that with people. But if you could make the same amount of money as you're making right now, but have zero amount of time having to go out to other things, would you? Well, yeah. Would you take a small pay cut to have more time? Most guys would. But that's just temporary. Now you have money and you have time. You should be investing, creating, co-creating, joint venturing something where you bring your skill set to the table. When I come to people who have businesses and I say, let me give you what the bigger picture looks like. And in no time at all, I can scale it up to huge, or as a sale to a bolt-on to another company or whatever, then they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. If I can get people to see that vision, then they can focus on the right things to move towards that. If I can't get them to see that vision, they're still a proprietor. Ask a proprietor who has a little bread shop to become the largest bread company in the world, and they're just like, I don't know how. But if you say, hey, this is how do you become a chain, or how do you make a chain, or how do you become a sale to somebody else, maybe they can see that. And then they can get out of something that was okay for them, fed them, but didn't really make them very wealthy, and get them towards doing wealth activities. Wealth activities should be enjoying yourself so you're wealthy with time, consistently finding opportunities and putting them together in some way, shape, or form, either with your time, money, other people's time or money. And so it benefits a group of people, not just yourself. And over time, you create a portfolio of things that pay you passively and or actively. But that's how I get people to think. I go, how would you like to have the lifestyle of this while still owning this and making the money? You have to let go of certain things to elevate yourself to here. If I can get people to see the vision of here versus where they're at, then it's just drawing a straight line to, well, what are the steps, how to get here? And it's much, much easier. I've had the opportunity, I think because when I was younger, I literally did not realize how brilliant this was, but this was an absolute brilliant strategy that I used for years. I invited myself to go talk to people way, way, way big companies and ask them questions. I just invited myself. Hey, how do I do this? In fact, I learned to raise money by just going to hedge funds. I had like $500 in my bank account at the time, and I'd go talk to hedge fund guys. And they go, well, we take $100 million and we slice it up into 10 million chunks and we do this and this. And I would ask them all this stuff. And I started to see businesses on a massive scale, and they introduced me to opportunities. And I $500 in my account. Didn't care. I just wanted to know. And so I asked, and I asked very congruently because I was like, how do I do this? And they're telling me, well, this guy here, he put this $200 million deal together with, none of his own money. I go, what did he have? Well, he had knowledge, he had experience, he had guts, he had and then what, taken care of. He had no fear. And he was able to see the bigger picture and say, oh, I see the bigger picture. I can put all the puzzle pieces together. And then what? And he would do stuff like that. And I go, he has knowledge and experience. How do I get that? Well, I just started asking people who had that knowledge and experience. And the hedge fund guy would introduce me to a private equity guy who would introduce me to a couple of private investors. And I'd ask him, people love to talk about themselves. I would ask these guys, tell me about your best deals. Tell me about your biggest deals. Tell me about your worst deals. Tell me about your stupid deals. Tell me about your stupid, simple deals. And they would just simply like, bleh.
Word vomit.
Yeah, word vomit, massive. And I would like sort through that word vomit and go, wow, there's some real good nuggets here. So I would go through that whole learning process of, I just imposed myself into their temporary class. this is back before YouTube and everything else. I just literally would just show up to people's offices and ask them stuff. And then I'd, take them to lunch and everything else. I learned to network and get incredibly cool people to talk to me and tell me everything for, coffee and a steak maybe. And it was brilliant how much information I could get, and it was free. And almost no one told me no. I had one or two people tell me. One guy told me no consistently because he was too busy. Not that he didn't want to, he was just too busy. The other guy was just like, I don't believe in sharing information. I think you're going to take advantage of me. No way. I was like, okay, good enough. But almost everyone else just was absolutely happy to help. You guys are a good example. You want to help other people who have a family and doing business. And I do. I mentor people as well. And you just want to help. And it's a way of, I don't know. It's like, look what I found. You could have this too. And some people are like, I don't believe it. That's fine. Don't. But other people are like, I want to know. And then over years, I've watched a lot of the people I've mentored grow into these fantastic people who've done a lot. So how do I think bigger? I guess one of the secrets is I don't think just in terms of the next year, the next couple of years. I went through this mental exercise one time that was like this. Imagine yourself, you're 80 years old, sitting in a rocking chair on a porch. What did your life look like? What did you want it to look like? What was it? And so I sat there in a meditative state and imagined myself 80 years old. I was really old. And I went back through my life and I thought of all these cool things I would love to have done. And I realized that this 80-year-old guy was this really cool guy. Well, I wanted to be that really cool guy, which means that I have to do some of these crazy things in order to be that really cool guy. So I just go, so now to me, all these things that I do that are big and fun, and they're inevitable. I literally have a state of inevitability in my mindset. I go, wealth, I have this phrase coined another Daleism. I call it inevitable wealth. If you do these things consistently, you're inevitably going to be wealthy. Even if you go to zero a couple times, you're just going to inevitably be wealthy just because you have this mindset of inevitable wealth, because you knew that if you keep stepping up to bat, keep swinging, you'll miss a bunch and you'll hit a home run. That's it. So by being 80, I realized that all of this cool life was formulated by swinging more often, regardless of the fear, regardless of the message, and everything else was simply that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Being 80. I love it.
Well, I was going to say there's so much gold in there. And I kind of figured out something like that early on too. People love talking about themselves. And I would find the people that were doing what I wanted to do. And the approach I took was like, look, I love where you're at, and I just want to figure out how to get there. So to your point, whether it was coffee, whether it was steak dinner, whatever money I spent, one, most people said yes. And two, when I talked to them, I would just go and ask questions, and they would just, spill all of that. And I would get so much good information. But then what I found out was that after that whole conversation, they would come back and say, no, Tom, tell me a little bit about you. Like, you said you want to get here. What are you doing now? What do you need? How can I help? And I found that they were so helpful in that case, and they wanted to help me, that was how I built up my network of mentors. And every opportunity came out of, basically creating that opportunity by going out, finding those people, asking the questions, and then just putting myself in a situation for greatness to happen.
Putting yourself in the situation. One of the things I learned when I was about 18 is I wanted to do X, but I didn't know how. So a lot of times I would just jump in with both feet and say, well, I'll either drown or learn to swim. So that is one of the ways that I overcame fear when I was younger, is just consistently faced it and jumped it. So one of the things that I did was I went hitchhiking for a year and a half when I was like 18, 19. I just walked out, I put stuff, clothes in the backpack, put it on, walked out the door, stuck out my thumb, and off I went. There was like no safety net. There was just no thought to it. There just was go face my fears. And I did. And if you consistently have that mindset of jump in and learn to swim on the way, you're gonna come away with rich experiences, and they may not be exactly what you want at the time, but they will serve you in getting to where you want to go. So again, jumping in, just jumping. My old CFO at the public company used to say this: Dale, I don't understand how you do what you do. You just leap and the net appears. I go, well, I said, the net's always there. Sometimes it looks like the ground. Sometimes it feels like the ground, but the net is always there. I just trust. I have total faith in the net is always there. And, I leap and sometimes I fly. I leap. Sometimes the net catches me. I leap. Sometimes the ground catches me and I bounce a little. But then I get to back up and go. So it's nothing terrible and nothing terminal. And when I figured out that the messages of fear were not, we're trying to protect me from pain, but I was willing to accept pain, or at least some of it, then the leap didn't seem nearly as scary. So, give me an example of like thinking really big. I mean, I like to think really big, but give me an example of where you've made some leaps, and I can go back and kind of, tell you about some of the other experiences where I've helped people make leaps, or where we grew, and, I'll give you a couple of different experiences. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so let me, I actually want to share our big leap that because we just talked about this the other day. So a big part of our challenge was we were always on this traditional path. We went to college, we got student loan debt. We kind of fell into, I forget, you had a great term for it. The
human funnel.
The human funnel, thank you. So we were part of the human funnel, and then it was kind of like the Matrix. We ended up breaking out and we saw all the other opportunity. Our big impact that we want to make is to help people realize that there's another alternative to the human funnel. So we really want to start impacting schools and teaching younger kids about these other opportunities that are out there and how to learn this stuff that we're talking about today. So that's our vision over the next several years, is to start making that impact. So that's the big picture thing, and we don't know how we're going to do it yet, but we laid it out.
Great. I love that. So you have you realize that only a certain percentage of people are entrepreneurs, right? Like Tom, you have the DNA of an entrepreneur. In other words, it would have found you regardless. It would have expressed itself. Gene expressed itself at some point or the other, much to Ariana's surprise. What? And whereas Ariana has the instead of the genes of an entrepreneur, you developed entrepreneurialism as part of being with Tom. And so you have to understand that there's two people kind of like run like that. There's only about 5 to 10% of the population. I don't really know the numbers, but I'm guessing about from big numbers that I remember, 5 to 10% of the population are hardcore, dyed in the wool, born and bred entrepreneurs. In other words, it's in their genes. Everybody else isn't. So if you take it into the schools, you have to have the right message and say, either you are part of the entrepreneurial world, whether you know it or not. Either you're going to become an entrepreneur because you are, and you have to be. You're going to marry or associate with entrepreneurs because you're just going to. So if 5% or 10% of the population is entrepreneurs and they get married, that means 20% of the population is in that entrepreneurial state. So that's one way of expressing it. And the rest of you guys are going to be buying from entrepreneurs the rest of your life. So at least you'll understand why they're here, right? If you express it like that, and then you give them the idea of you are either a consumer who always eats and never produces, that's fine. You can eat all you want. It's a buffet, but somebody serves you, and those people are entrepreneurs. Now, the people who serve you, they make all the money, whereas you pay them all your money. Which one do you want to be on? I think that if you express it that way, you can get it interesting. The way you, I think, need to do it is set some parameters and just go to one school. Charter schools are best for out of the box thinking. Go to 1 or 2 charter schools, right? And say, we want to do this as a test run for 1 year. And we want to measure people, or for even 3 years. We want to measure people for years afterwards, right? And once you have, I think, a model that you can consistently show, then you go to a bunch of charter schools. And if it's successful in charter schools and you can show this, you make this a couple year long study. In fact, I would love it if you guys went to like Yale, Stanford, or any of the big colleges and asked for funding, grant funding for part of this. You'd get paid to do some of this. You do this and you eventually, or go to a group of entrepreneurs and say, hey, we're crowdfunding entrepreneurial education in that. So now you've got funding. You don't have to be like hustling to try to get parents to pay for everything. You get them to buy in a little bit, but really what you do is you get funding from a couple different sources and you do this. Now you've got a model. Now it's just like going to the market. What else would you like? What do you want here? What do you want here? What does work? What doesn't work? Push that agenda, and then suddenly you've got 3, 4, 5 charter schools. You go out to 50. You go to loud store. Can you hear that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sorry. Holy crap! They're all arguing political stuff. Okay, so the funny thing is suddenly you've got this whole consortium, this constellation of charter schools that were willing to take on a model that's outside the norm. It's fundamentally outside the model anyway. Mm-hmm. Then you push that towards the public schools, because if you go to the public schools straight, you're going to have a long multi-year climb just for simple recognition And then you're going to have this massive push, and they're going to want to run in test schools anyway. Then it's going to have to be multi-year. Whereas in charter schools, you could get it done by, you know, you can be ready by the fall. You know, you'll be right in there, pick your grades, pick your target market, and start implementing. And charter schools will probably do something. And then you just simply say, hey, listen, as part of this, we're going to do some online stuff for you and promote your charter school and do some other things so that there's a benefit to the school. It's like a sales letter, right? But you get your most likely buyer, your ideal buyer, so to speak, to step in and give this to you. And then you've got fast action. In fact, you might even find some charter schools with summer classes that would be willing to start doing it immediately. Again, it's all proof in the pudding. So if you can show this, and on the other side, and if I were you, instead of like saying, here's entrepreneurialism on a big scale, say, here's 2 or 3 models that are pretty much inevitable. One of them is real estate, usually pretty inevitable. Another one is maybe like an online thing, you know, like a Shopify store, although that's becoming harder. But still, the point is you do something online. Another one might be, you know, teaching a little bit about, you know, how to make money in the finance world or something. I don't know. Pick 2 or 3 models. Don't pick them all. When somebody says, hey, I wanted to come in and do this and this, just keep it simple. You're dealing with youngsters, and you're going to deal with hormones and emotions, and you're going to deal with money, and you're going to deal all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, you guys wanting to tackle teenagers and entrepreneurialism, good luck. So obviously I haven't dealt with teenagers enough.
No.
But yeah. You might get cured of that pretty quickly. Then you move it to something like colleges and say, this is a hardcore college track. And you push to get it accredited, and then you can roll it out in multiple colleges. I know a guy, Peter Wynn, who put out Advertiser 360. He went and got it accredited with Baylor University in Dallas, and he subsequently put it out in multiple universities, and it became an accredited class. So it knows how to create and sell stuff online. Brilliant. So what I'm suggesting is this. Very simply, you go for the lowest hanging fruit, which would be charter schools, and bring them a big benefit as a side gig. You know, hey, we'll promote the heck out of you, just so that you can you know, get it in front of people and start testing it. And testing, documentation is key in testing, because you just got to go document. Hey, these are the people, these are the KPIs we came up with. Look at the results. And you always want to boil down all of this brilliant stuff to like 2 or 3 simple bite-sized elements that you can hand out to later. You do a presentation, you don't go through 300 KPIs. You go, our kids ended up being smarter, richer, and they did it faster. Whatever your KPIs are, right? And that way you can make it really bite-sized. That's what I would do. I mean, that's a pretty fast, scalable, fast growth thing, because you want to roll it out. Well, and the other thing is there's dozens of other people who are already doing something similar.
Well, I was gonna say that's the key thing, because I think, you know, part of being a successful entrepreneur is having that network, and that's what I figured. As we prove this out, then it's like, let's tap into that network of all the other entrepreneurs that are successful and want to do the same thing,
or are already starting to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you may want to find out. I just introduced somebody to Charlie Moore the other day, who's in the educational space, and he and him are doing some really cool stuff. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I'll get it to you later. But the point is that he approached me, and I go, I'd love that. I can't do it right now. I'm focused on my stuff. Good luck. But I introduced him to Charlie, who has several impact funds. This is another thing. Impact funds are funds out there that are in the business of not so much cash ROI, but social ROI, right? So they want to create an impact. So they're willing to invest actual cash, money. They got billions of dollars, and they're willing to put money into socially constructed projects, things that have an impact to society, impact to the environment, impact to the world, impact to culture, impact somewhere. So they're looking for impact versus ROI. Well, their ROI is impact. Yep. If you guys talk to Charlie Moore, you're going to he can introduce you to a few of those, but that's where I would go. Is I'd be like, hey guys, we want to do X, and they're going to go, where there's these other 10 guys who are doing something similar. Great. They're a nexus point from which you can communicate to a bunch of other educational reformers. And then you can get in there and start, mixing it up. And very quickly you become, a voice in that space. So that's how I would do it. So see how I think bigger? I just immediately start going to the point of Let's just go for the multi-billion-dollar fund that will introduce us to the right people who are already doing something simpler. And here's a low barrier where you can get in and prove yourself and be at their peer level really, really quickly.
Yeah, I was going to say, so for anyone watching or listening, this is the power of talking to people, building that network, finding people that are thinking big and doing it. And like I said, it's amazing every time, I know for a while I was kind of stuck because I wasn't doing this type of stuff. And now that I've done that, the people I've connected with, the things that have come to fruition through these brainstorming, and then just how quick just that one idea or that one question can change it. So if you're not surrounding yourself, if you're not putting yourself in the situation to meet very successful people, like I would challenge you, go and do that. Go and find a list of people that are doing what you want to do or making that impact, and go and do it now and introduce yourself. And you'd be amazed. Maybe some are going to say no, but if you do that, it's going to completely change the path of your life and your businesses.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to kind of close out the show, because as we said, we could probably talk to Dale for hours upon hours. But we want you guys to be able to get back to work, and we've got stuff to do too. So
I was just going to go hit the beach. No.
Yeah, Dale's got to go hit the beach. But if you are listening and Dale is someone that you want to reach out to, Dale, let people know how they can find you, how they can connect with you.
Sure. I have Dale Hensel is the name. I have a Facebook group called Income Stacking Club, Income Stacking Entrepreneurs, I think. And I'm just getting ready to launch this group. And it's basically the primary goal of the group is income stacking. Income stacking is a really simple concept. Do the various things you can do to stack up passive income until you can go stop being a business proprietor and be an investor owner and just go do your own thing. So it's how to build up your portfolio in dozens of different ways. Somebody was saying, oh, millionaires have an average of 7 income streams. I go, yeah, do you know how you get those? You build one, right? And once you build it, you get it and you automate it, then you can stack another one and another one and another one. And pretty soon that's how you end up getting where you want to be, is stacking up income.
Yeah, and we will we'll get the link from you and post that up on the show notes page, which is tomandariana.com/show14. /14. Did I say that?
Show 14.
Oh, sorry. /14. My brain.
So what I suggest is if you want to connect with me there, you can also look me up on Facebook, connect with me there, PM me. If you PM me, please be respectful of my time and simply say what you're here for, how you found me, what you want. Because a lot of people say, hey, and I go, how am I supposed to respond to that? I don't have time to respond to 2,000 heys with another hey and then wait. I'd like to, if you guys come to me and you guys need some help, sure, I'll be happy to help. I'm one of those guys who, after asking people for years to give me all their secrets, I now go ahead and hand it out as well. Here, you want some candy? Here's another. Here's another.
Oh, piece of candy.
Well, and I was going to say firsthand, I know we've talked over the years, we've spent some time in Airbnbs together, just brainstorming and doing this type of stuff. And Dale is somebody that you guys want to know, but whether it's Dale or anybody else, when you're reaching out to people, make sure you're giving them something. Make sure you're giving them a reason to want to talk to you. So absolutely, if you guys are loving this conversation, I'd recommend reaching out to Dale, but make sure you're doing it in a way that serves both of you guys.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thanks for being our first official guest. As soon as we were thinking of people, I'm like, we got to have Dale.
Yep,
Dale's got to be the first.
Dale's got to kick it off.
All right. Absolutely. I love these stuff.
All right. It's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders, and our special guest, Dale Hensel. But thank you for coming on. And we'll put all of that info in the show notes for you guys if you want to reach out to Dale.
And I was going to say, if this shows any indication, as always, it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur